So I connected with this month's interviewee on Instagram.
You always do.
Okay, so sue me if I don't exactly enjoy spending time on Twitter.
Hey, it's called X now.
It's Twix then. Shut up, other me. Anyway, Brice Odom is the author of 4 books, and I hope you enjoy the conversation that I got to have with him. All right, Brice, thank you for agreeing to do the interview and being on the show. It is great to have you. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well for having me, Garrett.
Good. You're very welcome to be here. So tell me about what it is that you write. I'd like to know a little bit more about your work.
So I write fiction that a little bit of poetry as well, short stories, and have one novel out there right now. But I genre-wise, I'm a little eclectic, but I like to usually describe it as subject matter that includes the fantastic. So everything from world-building fantasy to magical realism, or even a hardboiled detective story, a little all over the place, but there's usually some kind of sense of wonder in the fantastic in them.
So tell me about your most recent book. What is all that about?
So my most recent book that's gotten published was last November. It's right here. It's Letters from the Frontier. It's an epistolary novel that takes place in a fictional kingdom where something mysterious is threatening the kingdom. I won't tell you what because you got to read the book. But something mysterious is threatening the kingdom, and we're learning about it with all our characters as they encounter new things, as they write letters to loved ones, to superior officers, and things like that. And so the kingdom is mobilizing to defend against they don't know what at first. And then they, about halfway through the book, they figure out what it is, and then they have to respond.
So how'd you get into writing? Was this something that you've always wanted to do, or you're just sitting there in your class one day teaching, and you're like, I think I want to write a book?
I cannot think of a time when I wasn't wanting to tell a story of some kind. I usually like to use the phrase, I'm just an older kid still telling stories. Because when I was real little, I remember I wrote picture book stories about an adventurer. I still remember my granny using her typewriter to help me type up and publish a book. When I don't know if I was 10, maybe I was 10 years old at the time. So I have been doing this, just always wanting to tell a story.
What are some of your inspirations as a writer?
I'm a huge movie buff, so there's plenty, of that. My horrible detective story is really my love letter to the movie Chinatown and Maltese Falcon.
Nice.
So that's in my short story collection, Light of All Lights, and it is the oldest story that I have out there for people to read. That was the first story I wrote. This has gone to I've upped an ante. I've passed some kind of milestone in skill. So that was so films can be very inspirational there, but of course, when you're a writer, it's some of the big stuff is just, of course, authors. And I kind of always cite 3 as my biggest influence. Of course, Tolkien is my favorite writer, and I know I probably sound very cliche when I say that, but you read Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion. And I've actually read the Silmarillion more than I've read Lord of the Rings, which I know makes me an outlier with a lot of
That's impressive.
Middle-earth people. But that sense of expansive imagination is just so amazing. And then the other 2 are more stylistic, and they're very 180 degrees different. One is Charles Williams, who was an Inkling as well. He was a latecomer. Tolkien and him had a very complicated relationship. He was really good friends with Lewis. And then the other guy is Michael Shera, which is way different. If you don't know who he is, or if any of the watchers out there don't know who he is the guy who wrote The Killer Angels, one of the great Civil War novels, and For Love of the Game. Yeah, but great baseball book. The book is way better than the movie. Kevin Costner was a really good Billy Chapel, but the book was way better.
So what has been one of the the biggest challenges or the hardest parts that you've encountered in developing your writing?
So I'm a school teacher, and that is, if you know any school teachers, you know it's a very time-consuming job. And even in a light week, you still feel pretty dead mentally when you get home some days, and it's tough to keep keep a project going every day. Uh, if I'm in the middle of something I really am trying to get done, and I really like, a lot of times that means Saturday I'm going to be blocking off anywhere between 1 and 3 hours, just to force myself to keep working. Because if I don't, in a school year, it's so easy for just the days and weeks just to go and slip away.
Oh yeah.
Um, but so time management's a huge issue. Um, the other is uh, the actual publishing process is always a challenge. I don't have a literary agent. It really feels like you're going blind to that, whether it's finding journals to publish stories or looking for literary agents. Now, I've been fortunate over the last year at this point. I've gotten 3 short stories accepted into different publications, so that's been a really exciting. And I've had a honorable mention in a writing contest. So I'm starting to be able to find more places, but that is a real challenge when you don't have the time and
Yeah.
you don't know what you're doing.
Brice, what advice would you give to other would-be authors who are watching this interview and wondering what they can do to improve what they're working on?
Every author has, the laundry list of things that they could say. But my biggest one is kind of twofold. One is just keep writing. It does, you get the people who say write every day, write something every day, and sometimes your life or your job just does not allow that. But intentionally keep coming back to it. Keep trying, pick at it. When all you can do is pick at it, pick at it. When you can sit down and write a good bit, sit down and write a good bit. When the inspiration strikes, write it down on a note card. Come back to it late. Come back to it later.
Yeah.
But always just be trying to write. But the other key part of that is don't write what other people want. Write what you want to read.
Well, we're coming up on time, Brice. So we're going to wrap up with one last question. How can people connect with you, and how can they get a hold of copies of Letters from the Frontier?
Well, you can follow. I've got a website, jbriceodom.com. And then plus I'm on social media. Facebook is jbriceodom is the official page, and Instagram is at jbriceodom_author. And there is the YouTube channel I mentioned earlier, which is sporadically used, but is used on occasion. And that's jbriceodom_author as well.
Very cool. Well, awesome. Brice, thank you for being a part of the show. It's been a pleasure to have you.
Thanks, Garrett. Thanks for having me on.
A big thank you to J. Brice Odom for being this month's Author Awareness interviewee. Now, if you'd like to connect with him and get copies of his work, you can find those links down in the video description. You can also catch the unedited version of this conversation through my support page over on Patreon.